What's up, YouTube? I'm the Calcar 131, and this is the King Cobra by CobraTec. Quick note, if you notice a background change at all through various clips in this video, because I originally got this knife sometime, or I'd say like mid-2021, which is why in certain clips, you might notice that, the background looks all pretty and warm and green. And right now, as of recording this right now in early March 2022, it is not pretty and warm and green. It's kind of fucking cold. Let's be honest, we've all probably seen John Wick. We've all seen the scenes where he has that really badass tactical knife, that double action out the front knife. Unfortunately, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that is a Microtech, which, let's be totally fair, Microtech is really the big name when it comes to double action. For the record, double action meaning switch. The switch retracts and shoots it out, does both, double action. Out the front, obviously it shoots out the front. So when it comes to double action out the front knives, Microtech is by far and away the big name in the industry. It's the elephant in the room. Unfortunately, Microtechs, they're a really good knife from what I've heard. I have no experience with them, but from what I've seen, they're very good knives. You really pay for that too, because I want to say the average cost, I mean, different models are going to change obviously, but average cost of a Microtech is like 300 plus. That's that's a lot of money for a pocket knife. I mean, hey, that might be worth it for you if you have money to throw around, but me, not quite so much. However, whenever I found CobraTec, company that makes this knife here, and I saw the prices on some of their knives, which again, different models change, but CobraTec, for the most part, they go from around $100 up to 200 on the high end for some of their stuff, which the King Cobra, this knife right here for the record, is 179, I believe, but that's a bit more tolerable. A bit, you can stomach that a bit better. So when you first get your any CobraTec knife, I guess, but the King Cobra in this case, comes in this pretty decent box, honestly. CobraTec, lifetime warranty, CobraTecKnives.com, nothing on the bottom. Pop all these tabs here. And first thing you are met with is your knife, in this case the King Cobra. Really nice, got that gray, I think it's Cerakote from what their website says. Aluminum handle scales, carbon fiber inlays. Focus. There we go. CobraTec logo, glass breaker. Real nice blade. As you can see there, it is made of D2 steel, which I'm not a super hardcore knife guy, but from what I understand about D2 steel, it's a pretty decent steel, sort of like a mid-range, high mid-range steel. So I think it fits pretty well on this this quality of knife, level of knife. Now the sheath, not gonna lie, it doesn't, in my opinion, scream quality. It's just a cheap nylon sheath. It screams to me more like the sort of thing that they throw in there so they can market it and say, hey, we include a sheath. I don't know how many people actually use a sheath with a pocket knife, but apparently some do. Next up, this little baggie has a tool. You can see that head there to coincide with these screws. Take them off. That little rod, near as I can tell, is just to slide through there, give you some extra leverage. Let's check out what we got next. Got the warranty card, lifetime warranty, 30 days of purchase. You have to register it, register there. Lifetime warranty sounds real impressive until you look at the long list of things that they do not actually cover, but it is what it is. Now, registration number down here, yours will not come covered with pink duct tape. I covered mine because I'm honestly not sure if, I don't think any of you could try and use my registration number after I've already registered my knife, but I know some of you little heathens would try, so can't now. So yeah, that's what that one is. Down here you have the person that built it. Supposedly they signed it. I think that's supposed to be DW, so DW, you built this knife for me, appreciate it, bro. A couple more specs on the King Cobra. According to CobraTec, it weighs 5 ounces. On my scale, it's like 5.1, but basically 5 ounces. So kind of on the upper end of weight for a pocket knife. Going over some overall sizes, the handle itself is right at about 5 inches, not counting the glass breaker. The glass breaker is something like a 1/4 inch. Has a 3.5 inch blade. Actually, it's more like on my when I use a tape measure, it was more to like 3 3/4, but we'll say about 3.5 inches. Overall, from the tip to the end of the glass breaker extended, it is about 9 1/4. And I did check all of that again with the tape measure. It's all pretty accurate. While we're talking about the blade, as you can see, I got the dagger profile, but they do offer a couple other profiles. They offer it in a uh, drop point profile and a Tonto profile. Both of those, or all three of those, I guess, all three options also have the option for serrated or unserrated. Note about the glass breaker here, it is actually removable. Use this little post that came with the takedown tool, slide it through, and it just unscrews. Fun fact about the takedown tool, it's actually magnetic. Not a super strong magnet, but it means you can see it definitely has a little bit of a magnet in it. Quick sharpness test with this King Cobra. I haven't really done much with it. I only got it a couple days ago, so this is pretty much right out of the box sharpness. There's a little hang-ups here and there. I have used it for a little light things, but it's usable, but it's not super sharp. Now, I get a feeling I know how this one's gonna go. That was just printer paper, which is a bit thicker, easier to cut. This is some phone book paper from probably the last phone book in existence. I'm willing to bet it's not gonna cut it very well, but yeah, pretty much same thing. Now, to be completely transparent, I'm not very good about getting like correct, perfect edge alignment, but this should give you a rough idea. It's usable, but it's far from razor sharp. One thing to note, the spring pressure that sends this in and out is not nearly as strong as a lot of people seem to kind of just assume it to be. So for some comparison, I have a piece of printer paper. So hopefully you could see that. It can't even stab through the printer paper reliably. I did this off camera once or twice. Just that's what those are for. But as you saw, it does not penetrate even just paper reliably, and it does this. So if you're ever playing with one and you have this happen, most knives from what I've seen, just pull it out, puts it back on track. But yeah, so the spring pressure is not nearly as strong as what a lot of people think. See, that one stabbed through it, but it still came off the track. But if that ever happens, just pull on it, it's back. So one thing I wanted to test on this King Cobra is how well it'll penetrate. Given that I have the dagger point here, it's kind of made for penetrating. In addition, they market this as sort of like a EDC tactical-esque sort of knife. So what's one thing that stereotypically you might need to do with a knife like this? Stab someone. So let's see how much it'll do in this clear ballistics gel, 10%. This is, as you can see, very old, very used, and very murky. You can't see through it. It's not very clear anymore. But it'll let me simulate how well this will do if I'm stabbing into soft tissue, which is what this is meant to simulate. And another thing I'm kind of interested in is how well this lockup here will hold up whenever the knife invariably does get stopped by this gel. Hopefully I can get a decent kind of measure on it. So let's find out. Penetration up to about there. Looks like about 2 1/4 inches. I'll try that one more time. Okay, got some significantly better penetration on that one. Got almost all the way through the blade there. Come on. 3 inches it looked like, around there. Try one more time just for shits and giggles. Around the same thing, I'm guessing going to be around 3 inches. Yeah, it looks like pretty close to 3 inches. So that's roughly what you can expect, between 2 and 3 inches, I'd say. Now, obviously, this is not a super exact test. There are people that are stronger than me that could stab this down harder. There are people that are more efficient than me, yada yada. But that's just one sort of metric that you could go on how much penetration you could expect out of this. Now, this is my very first out the front double action knife, dual action, whatever. Uh, One thing I was nervous about was how tough is the lockup. So if you did have to use this as a self-defense tool in a tactical situation, uh, it wouldn't do a whole lot of good if you had to stab someone, stab a threat or something, and you stab, and the blade lockup just kind of fails and just shoots right back in the handle. Wouldn't be super effective. So I did do a little bit of lockup testing, just stabbing it into some pieces of wood. I stabbed it into a old tire that I had sitting on the property, and I actually was kind of surprised about this. I had no issues. I put a pretty decent amount of force into it as far as just stabbing this into various materials that it didn't penetrate. So all of the force was kind of put onto that lockup bar, not a bar, but what it locks up on inside the handle, and it didn't pop loose or break free. So the lockup on this also seems to be pretty good. A little bit about the steel choice. They did choose to use D2 steel. Now, I am not like a hardcore knife guy to the point where I have extensive experience with different types of knife steels. So I did a little bit of research, kind of looked at a couple articles comparing different knife steels. D2 steel seems to be kind of a mid-range, maybe upper mid-range steel choice. And some of the things I read about it, it does not have very good corrosion resistance, which I can verify. As I'm looking at it, I think I have two tiny little specks of rust on here, just surface rust, but it looks like I have two on there now, and I have noticed a little bit briefly now and then some surface rust. So you're definitely going to want to keep a layer of CLP or some kind of oil on there. I also read that, especially compared to other steels in the same category, D2 is kind of hard to sharpen, which made me feel better because boy did I have issues sharpening this thing. Look at the tip there, and you can see it's not nearly as nice and precise and pointy as it was when I first got it. That's because, especially early on when I got this, I wanted to sharpen it from the decent usable condition it was in to a bit sharper. Uh, I had issues with it. I pretty much just reprofiled the entire edge using a Ken Onion Work Sharp little belt sharpener, and I've gotten to the point where I've gotten better at it, and I can get it maybe not like screaming razor sharp, but very usable. I can get it to there. So so just some things to note about the D2 steel. Not very corrosion resistant, kind of hard to sharpen. I think it's a decent choice, I would say, considering the price of this. 180 bucks, as I've already said. D2 steel, but also you have to figure something like this is going to take a bit more R&D, more parts, I would imagine, for building it versus just like a standard flip folder. So I think it's a pretty decent choice that they chose. Going over the build quality or durability for the King Cobra here, I did a little bit of sort of chopping with it. Now, to be clear, I'm not recommending that you do chop with it. I don't think it's really intended or made to be a woods craft or a bushcraft or anything like that knife. However, I did do some chopping with it just because it's some harsher use, it's vibrations, just seeing how the knife itself will hold up to it. And I had, no issues at all with it at all. The tip, I did a little bit of tip testing with it as well, as far as just, stabbing it into some wood and prying side to side to see if the tip would bend or break. Once again, no issues with it. I did Now I didn't like hammer it in there and try and crank on it whenever a quarter of the blade was in wood and try to break it. No. I did just some generic tip testing and I had no issues. Last thing as far as build quality, I think, is just kind of normal use. How's it held up since I bought it probably 8 months ago to like just general use? So I've been carrying it pretty much every day, basically every day, and using it for normal everyday carry knife stuff. Opening packages, cutting tape, cutting cords, cutting zip ties, stuff like that. Sort of that some of that like thicker, harder plastic that certain products come in. I've cut pretty much all of it with this, and probably thousands of times by now done this. Probably thousands or tens of thousands of times just doing that, and I've had no issues. Stepping up for the CobraTec King Cobra. I really like it. It's basically my everyday carry knife at this point. As far as, all of the stuff you would expect a knife to do, as I've already said, opening packages, cutting cordage or zip ties or anything like that, cutting paper, I guess, anything that you would expect just a normal, casual knife to do, it's done perfectly fine for me and to what I expect. It's it seems pretty durable. For a double action out the front knife, it's, I'd say, pretty decently priced considering it is sort of a larger knife, a 3.5-inch blade, and it has the D2 steel and everything. Not really that many cons that I can personally think of. For me personally, I don't have any cons. I genuinely cannot think of anything serious that I don't like about it. I could nitpick the steel and say, "Oh, it would be nice if I didn't have to worry about a little bit of light surface rust, or it was a little easier to sharpen." But all of those would require completely different steels, which I believe Microtech, CobraTec does have. They have a couple other knives in different steels. So I'm not really gonna consider that a very serious con. You could consider it a con, possibly, that it only has the one type of pocket clip position. As you can see, there's nowhere else you could mount that pocket clip, so you could consider that a con. Again, for me personally, that's not an issue. So my final thoughts, if you're looking for a fairly large double action out the front knife for around the load for around 200 or a bit less, you should definitely consider the CobraTec King Cobra. And I think my favorite thing about it is just cool. Not every knife has to be like 100% no frills, straight practical. It's just pretty cool to have a double action out the front knife. It's different. It's cool. It makes me feel like John Wick. Then I look down and remember I ain't John Wick. But with the CobraTec King Cobra, I can pretend. If you enjoyed the video, you found it informative or entertaining, give me a like. I appreciate it. Subscribe if you want to see more stuff similar to this in the future. I'm the Car 131, signing off.